Shadow and the Blade dropping tomorrow, but into the Norscan snow we plunge one last time before the fall. Throgg the Troll King and the Blessed Dread meeting at the Golden Phallus of the Gods, and it's all about the Bloodwrack Medusa and her shrine today, projecting the psychic resonance of her hatred all across the battlefield. The sexy snake train has no brakes, and she's got an air force to back her up. Maelstrom and Lokhir Fellheart take to the skies with a master on a dark Pegasus, but in their shadow wait the wolves of Norsca. So I think one of the most interesting things about these DLCs is seeing how the new stuff matches up to units and factions we've had for a while. I don't think this DLC is anywhere near as power creepy as some of the ones we've had before. Prophet and the Warlock comes to mind, but there are some great units here, and against any faction that relies on the infantry grind to win, that don't have impressive missile play, like the Vampire Counts or Norsca, I think the Bloodwrack Shrine with Medusa on top is a pick your opponent has to respect. She is a lawnmower, extremely good at blending infantry. Her Aura of Agony lowers leadership and melee defense of any nearby enemies, and Aura of Ardor does the opposite, buffing nearby Dark Elves as well. She's supported by the Black Guard of Nagorant, a gift from the Witch King to his finest admiral, and a Fire Sorceress with Hadouken, Flaming Sword of Ruin, and Burning Head waiting on the wings. And Fireball will be extremely good at taking down Throgg. You can poke him down, he's going to take additional damage because he's weak to fire. Up top, though, it's all about Lokhir, Maelstrom, and their Master Buddy, giving them a 15% ward save with Guardian, and the Helm of the Kraken granting regen and melee defense when the Black Dragon is stuck into melee. Very potent goon squad, can hopefully kill some high-value targets. And waiting on the mountaintop are the Raven Heralds. Not a great unit overall, but they can pretty reliably chunk down a high-value single entity or two. So against Norsca or Chaos, you'll typically have a target-rich environment, and Marauder Horsemen can't close into range, because the Raven Heralds are way faster. So I don't recommend them competitively, but they are certainly not horrendous, and they can be pretty fun. For Norsca and the Beasts of Winter, the Wintertooth Crown makes everybody unbreakable in an AoE. Fimir Balefiend with Enfeebling Foe, Miasma, and Pendulum, and a front line of Marauders and Berserkers with 2 Ice Wolf Chariots and 2 units of Armored Skin Wolves protecting each flank. And up on the mountaintop, he's got 3 Marauder Horsemen. So a lot of skirmish power, a lot of mobility. Those can get pretty annoying when you get them into groups of 3 or 4. It's a lot of javelin firepower coming your way, so we're going to have to be pretty cautious of those. Now, a little tip for those of you using the Bloodwrack Shrine tomorrow, you probably want to turn Fire at Will off when it's in melee combat, because that Sonic Scream projectile she has, it has a minimum distance it must travel before it actually detonates. So it can fire at enemies all day at its base, and it will, but it won't do any damage until those units are roughly 10 to 15 meters away. Found that out when I was testing with Falcon yesterday, so I recommend turning that off so you don't waste your ammo, and then getting some shots in maybe in the late game scenario could be really good. Ice Wolf Chariot's going to be playing bumper cars here in the early stages. You can see that Sonic Scream, not so good against single entities or chariots, way better against lightly armored infantry. Can jib 20 to 30 a shot, but does almost no damage to that Ice Wolf Chariot when it made contact. So I felt like zoning them out, trying to push them backwards so they don't get rear charges into my Dread Spears. I am going to cede the hill and move away from the Golden Phallus and give myself a little bit more space to position and get the Raven Heralds into a spot where they can maybe snipe out Throgg or the Fimir Balefiend. And if I can do a lot of damage to either one of those, that will be a huge win. Throgg is going to be a huge problem in melee. Fimir Balefiend going to be a huge problem in terms of casting. So Maelstrom, Lokhir Fellheart, and the Master will be looking to kill some stuff early, but the Fire Sorceress unleashing her Hadouken, and look out, sir! Marauder Horsemen gonna jump in front of that fireball and take it so their lord doesn't have to. A brave sacrifice indeed. 2 of those Marauder Horsemen going down, but that means Throgg will get out of that unscathed. Really cool to see that in action. Bodyguards in a nutshell. Maelstrom going down, gonna kill a few of those Marauder Horsemen, and they will retreat behind the safety of their own infantry. And Master and the Dragon both have to be pretty careful, pretty cognizant of where those Skin Wolves are. Armored Skin Wolves, if they get a full surround off on even a huge Black Dragon who's great in melee, Dreaded Duelist, I mean, you'd think Lokhir Fellheart is great in that scenario, but it only takes the 1 surround. Throgg gets a couple attacks in, and it's good night for Maelstrom. Medusa, unleashing her Psychic Scream, channeling her inner Dr. Manhattan, mind over matter, and matter loses. Marauders missing their better half, and 20 of them exploded in a single cast. And now she can just charge right into melee and start causing havoc there as well. Best way for Norsca to get rid of her is have Throgg and the Skinwolves gank the shrine, but 3 units of Jav Cav will also be pretty decent, so she'll probably have to retreat before they get a bunch of good shots into her. Now, throwing axes with their AP will be better, but Jav Cav still not bad in that kind of scenario. And here comes the storm. Lokhir, Fellheart, and Maelstrom landing in the vanguard in and amongst a bunch of soft, squishy targets, but won't have too much time to feast. Skinwolves and Marauder Chariots moving around the flank, trying to pin him down so Throgg can beat him down with his club. But these Berserkers will not stand long against the Shrine and a Black Dragon. Dreaded Duelist popped. Master is still giving that Guardian aura. And you can see Maelstrom and Lokhir have taken some damage. The Kraken's Helm will give him that regen, which is super nice in a long, drag-it-out fight with non-AP units. But the Skinwolves are coming around the flank now, chasing after the Dark Riders, who will move into the safety of the trees. Skinwolves will not try to give chase because they won't be able to close the gap there. And Flaming Sword of Ruin going down on the left flank to make that Bloodwrack Shrine even scarier in melee. Blackguard retreating, and we've got a little bit of a gank coming in here. The Master, the Black Dragon, and the Dark Riders all coming in, and a gorgeous sandwich on those Skinwolves. Dark Rider's gonna pin them down. Maelstrom gonna get the rear charge, and immediately Skinwolves losing about 1/5 of their HP. But a very nice Penumbral Pendulum going down on the Blessed Dread right flank, scything them apart, and that should allow the Berserkers and the Marauders to push through with the support of Throgg. And speaking of Throgg, he's a kid in a candy store, happily smashing any knife ear that gets in his way. It's not a particularly evolved form of combat. Stone clubs are a bit dated when it comes to warfare, but they are effective, and the Dark Elves are learning that the hard way. Meanwhile, Skinwolves are being taught the same lesson by Lokhir and his Black Dragon in the rear. Fly me closer, I want to hit them with my Red Blades of End. And Enfeebling Foe, cutting his stat line in half, but I'm not sure that's going to be enough to save those Skinwolves. The other ones are going to make like a tree and branch. Blackguard of Nagaron are not a unit they want to be fighting. They will retreat and get further away from that fight. It looks like they might be going back in towards Lokhir, which would not be the right call if the Blackguard are still around, which they are. That Fimir Balefiend is in the wrong neighborhood, and yeah, the Skinwolves have decided to move off. Master on top of the Marauder Ice Wolf Chariot and chunking through it with that armor-piercing halberd. Bloodwrack Shrine down to half HP from all that javelin fire, and the Raven Herald still on Overwatch. It's a big overcast Pit of Shades, lands on top of the Blackguard, and will chunk their HP down by 2,000. Fireball poking into Throgg, hitting that armored hide and hitting him with a lot of that flame weakness. Throgg didn't take a massive amount of damage there, but those fireballs will rack up over time. He's got that regen, but when he's in the middle of this fight, this is an important one. Bloodwrack Shrine is nearby, realizing that it doesn't want to be fighting Throgg in a 1v1 duel, but Lokhir is getting caught out by those Skinwolves. He's getting dropped real low, and it looks like there's only 1 or 2 models pinning him in place, but just barely using that mass and able to extricate himself from what could have been a disastrous situation. Fimir Balefiend getting sniped out by the Raven Heralds. This is what they're good for. Sit on top of a caster, sit on top of a Lord, use that AP and accuracy and poke them down. And combine that with some Hadouken, and Throgg, who did have some HP not too long ago, doesn't anymore. They're coming in hot. Command Center dropping low and shattered for Norsca. Immediately, Lokhir getting 1-2 attacks off with Dreaded Duelist active, and Throgg just wanted none of that action. He's out of there. All the infantry charging in to try to pin him down and finish off the Lord, and that is going to set up a gorgeous burning head, incinerating through the flank, and a lot of infantry there are going to drop. So that was about 35, 40 kills on the Sorceress, I believe, and a lot of routing after that burning head, which does lower leadership from the burnt contact effect. I believe that's -8 leadership combined with the terror. Too much, but the Norskins will come back into combat. Marauder Berserkers are a problem. They're pinning that Master in place. Bloodwrack Shrine looking real low, but she's still alive and still blending infantry. Just styling on him. Doing the sex offender shuffle. One more spit. Gonna take another Berserker's head clean off, and they're gonna shatter too. So, she needs to get back into combat, because there are still a lot of Norskins left, and the Bows Bar is actually in favor of the Barbarians of the far north. Blackguard are making their last stand, getting swarmed by cavalry. They just broke. That charge from Marauder Horsemen will be enough to see them off, but if Maelstrom can go in, land, and force them all away, Blackguard might be able to come back, but only with slivers of HP. And the Master, he's got one job right now: chase these Skin Wolves off the map. Do not allow them to return. They've got a lot of their models left. They could get a bunch of health back with regen. It's just not worth it. Not worth letting them escape and coming back to the fight. So, Noxious Fumes gonna do a little bit of damage to those Marauder Horsemen, but they'll dodge the majority of that breath attack, and a lot of that Dark Elf infantry is disappearing under these repeated cycle charges of the Marauder Horsemen. And this is why we've kind of seen them come to the forefront of both the Chaos and the Norscan meta. Very viable in a lot of different circumstances. That mobility is key, but once they've used all their ammunition, they can certainly do a lot for you in terms of cycle charging or getting rear charges to rout off units. And of course, they've got all the speed to run units down too. But Lokhir getting stuck in alongside that Bloodwrack Shrine. Marauder Horsemen beginning to terror rout, but they do have some support from the chariots. One of them is full HP. It's going in there, and there are more Skin Wolves waiting on the flank, ready to get stuck in. Bloodwrack Shrine is super low, and this charge might be enough to finish her off, which would be a huge swing in the Norscan's favor. All those high mass units moving in, trying to pin them down. She will rout after that charge. Marauder Horsemen get terrified, but they'll probably come back too. And this is getting real close here, getting real spicy in the late game. Another charge coming in. Bloodwrack Medusa Shrine is done. Dusted, collapsing into the snow, and Lokhir Fellheart is getting real low too. But the question is, at this point, as Flaming Sword of Ruin goes down from that Fire Sorceress, does Norsca have what it takes to bring down Maelstrom and Lokhir Fellheart, who does have that Helm of the Kraken, giving him regen and melee defense whenever he gets stuck into melee? And the Skin Wolves are roaring out of the trees, while the Master has done his duty, chased off the Skin Wolves, and now returning to the front. It's going to be a while, though. He is on a Dark Pegasus. He's very fast, I think 100 move speed. But still, this battle could be over before he manages to get back into combat. There are Black Guard left. Look at that. There are three, it looks like 4 models left on those halberds, and the Norskins chilling at the edge of the tree line, and they're going right back in and bullying those poor Black Guard. Leave them alone. But the halberds are still alive, heroes of the day. And they just stabilized. I cannot believe that. I cannot believe these heroes are still dueling it. And they just shattered. Those Marauder Horsemen, one of them just went flying. Those Black Guard, they are absolute champions. And they're holding the line while the Master makes his way back. So, Maelstrom and the Master together, there's only one target that really matters here. It's the Skin Wolves. If they can strike those down, the rest of the army should rout. And here they go. They're going in. This is everything. Norsca coming in from all sides, trying to get the full surround up. But immediately, the Skin Wolves break. Everything else starts to rout. And it looks like the Blessed Dread with that charge. Master and Black Dragon together. It is a potent goon squad, a powerful combination, and they will be more than enough to take down what remains of this Marauder Ice Wolves chariot. Exciting game. Really fun to play that one. And you don't get to see Maelstrom very often. Lokhir Fellheart is a good lord. I think on a lot of other factions, he'd probably be a go-to in a lot of circumstances. But for the Dark Elves, they just have they're spoiled for choice, essentially. Morathi, Malekith, both of them are amazing choices. The Dark Elf Sorceresses, they're also very good for the cost. Can get them for like 900 gold or less than that. I mean, they've got a lot of options here, so you don't see Lokhir that often. But on Maelstrom, he is a force to be reckoned with, no doubt about it. And that Bloodwrack Shrine, 100% going to be that mainstay unit you see against factions like the Vampire Counts, who don't have range play to take her down easy. She'll just go in, she will bulldoze through Graveguard, through zombies, through all the skeleton boys, all that stuff, all day long. She's going to be a force for sure. You want those auras. In a blob fight like that, you get Morathi, Heartrender, and the Dark Sword, and the Bloodwrack Shrine together. That buff stacking, that debuff stacking is going to be incredibly powerful and hard for some factions to deal with. And obviously, the Dark Elves were already top tier. They were already a super good faction. This DLC, it's going to make them better. There's no question about it. They've got even more tools now. They are spoiled for choice. No question about it. And the Black Guard were champions that game for me. They earned 2 chevrons fighting Skin Wolves, fighting off the large targets. Really helped support that Bloodwrack Shrine and Lokhir. And that +4 health per entity that health buff is going to go a long way because they have a lot of armor. They have high melee defense, great stats. I think that buff is also going to be really useful for them. It'll be nice to see more of that elite tier infantry because we don't see a whole lot of that in the Warhammer 2 meta right now. Hope you guys enjoyed this game. A lot more coming soon.